Okay, so Coach, you tell everyone to Google you. So we decided to do that.
Nice.
We Googled Curt Cignetti. And this is what we found. Okay, why did Curt Cignetti come to Indiana?
It was a quick process. I really felt strongly about the commitment level from Scott Dolson, Pam Whitten, the president, Scott's the AD. And I'd been here a couple times and really thought I liked what I'd seen at campus. And the Big Ten TV contract really caught my eye a year and a half, 2 years ago, whenever that was signed. And I felt like I'd done this turnaround job a few times already. And my wife said, let's do it. And so we did.
So it's a place that didn't have a ton of recent success or really historical success. So what about that challenge was something that you were willing to take on?
Well, you know, there were probably like, I didn't know that they had lost the most games or things like that. I remembered being a coach's son, following college football closely since 1970. I knew they had had some good teams and, you know, had struggled some as well. But, you know, I really felt like in this day and age with the proper commitment from the top that any P4 program can be successful. And I was confident, you know, I'd had a lot of success as a head coach, that we could come in and do well. Now, what I didn't know first day on the job is about 10 offensive starters in the transfer portal and about 8 on defense. So, and half a staff hired, and coaches to hire, old coaches to talk to, guys in the portal, find guys in the portal, a lot of work to be done. But in 3 weeks, you know, we signed 22 transfers who had all been 2, 3-year starters. I really felt in my heart like we had flipped the roster. And that's when the Google Me comment came out. It was a press conference, a signing day. I had not seen the light of day for over 3 weeks, and that's the truth, the absolute truth. And I'd answered that question about 15 times already. And so I just put my head down and kept it simple.
Is Curt Cignetti related to Frank Cignetti? So I know that your dad has had such an important impact on your life, so tell us a little bit about him.
Yeah, a great man, a real leader, helped a lot of people in life, really highly thought of back in, you know, Pennsylvania and the places he's been. Strong work ethic, great character, real upfront, honest guy, would tell you what was on his mind. You may not like it all the time, but it was for your good. And he was a role model. And I was the oldest in the family, and you know, I can remember the early days at West Virginia that some of the younger ones don't. They remember him in a different light. And you know, he just can't say enough about him, really. But I couldn't imagine growing up with a better role model than my father.
Did you know that you wanted to coach because you were around it?
Yeah, in 1970, we went from Princeton to West Virginia. Bobby Bowden took the head coaching job at West Virginia. And so I was on the sideline for every game, in the locker room at halftime, listening to Coach Bowden. I knew right then and there I wanted to coach.
So did you end up playing for your dad for 1 year?
I played 1 year for my dad. Yeah.
Okay, what was that like?
You know, it was, I was a redshirt freshman. I was a pretty average player. I worked real hard in high school, and, you know, I wasn't a terrific talent or anything. And it was quick because, you know, he beat cancer after his 3rd year, and he was able to coach that last year. And we were a real young team, you know, won 5 of our last 8 with all redshirt freshmen and sophomores, but, you know, new stadium, new AD, new president, and they made a change, and that was tough because, you know, he felt, a lot of people felt that they had turned the corner there. But, you know, it was something that happened, and he spent 2 years out of football because he couldn't get life insurance, and then went back to his alma mater, Indiana University of Pennsylvania. That
sounds familiar.
Yep, and spent about 25 years there.
So let's talk about when you worked there. What did that feel like, becoming the head coach of a place that your dad had coached at?
Yeah, well, that was a real unconventional coaching move. You know, I was hitting the big 5-0. I was tired of being an assistant coach. I didn't want to be a 58, 59-year-old assistant moving every 2 to 3 years. I didn't want to go that route. So I switched lanes and I took a real chance. I took that job and it was a different program than when he had it. You know, the budget was about 25% of what it was when he was there. And, you know, they had lost 10 of their last 14 conference games. And there was a coach that had succeeded him in between. And obviously it was, you know, I mean, going from Alabama to there was like, you know, I'd wake up in the morning like, what did I do? And my family was in Alabama and they went through the tornado and all that. And, you know, but my wife's from Indiana, PA. My mom and dad were still there. At the time they were in Florida vacationing, which I did. So I was kind of like in their house all by myself, but there were people there I knew, her extended family. She's number 9 of 10. So we were there 6 years, and you know there were really a lot of positives, being around family and played a lot of golf. But we turned that thing, and it was good. And then you know, got a call, and we were on the move.
This is something that people Google. Is Curt Cignetti a good football coach? So instead of asking you to answer whether or not you're a good football coach, what makes you the football coach that you are? I mean, some of these early experiences. The time at Alabama under Nick Saban, I imagine, is part of that.
Yeah, you hit it right on the head. I mean, being a coach's son, being kind of a student of the game, and being around a lot of great people, really. I mean, you know, I had the opportunity to work for Johnny Majors. Walt Harris was a great quarterback coach. You know, Chuck Amato won at NC State. Obviously, Coach Saban, and great assistant coaches that a lot of people haven't even heard of. But you know, I never coached for my dad. But when I went with Coach Saban, I had about 24 years as an assistant under my belt. And what I learned from him was basically, you know, how to win, and how to run a program, structure, organization, leadership, management, messaging, everything, how to practice in-game strategy. And, you know, I always wanted to be a head coach. I wasn't going to finish my career not being a head coach. And so I made that move after my 4th year, you know, at Alabama.
So you were with Coach Saban as he was starting to build Alabama.
Correct.
So what did you learn from those early years there before it became what it became as a machine that you've taken as you've become a head coach?
Well, really, you know, I think every year I learned about the same thing. Although the first year we were 7-6 and did lose to Louisiana Monroe, our 11th game of the year at home. And then our first recruiting class, we had 6 first-round draft choices. And we went undefeated in the regular season. And the following year won the national championship. So besides all the things I referenced previously, you know, the big thing was avoiding complacency, because at one point we won 29 straight regular season games. And, you know, everybody feels good after you win. Players get to enjoy it for 24, staff members a little less. But you got to have that edge on Monday, because the margin for error in this game is very slim. So, you know, Coach Saban knew how to keep people on their toes. And like it was like a doctorate level course for 4 years on how to be a head coach and run an organization.
Yeah, I feel like everyone who goes behind the curtain like comes out like a totally new coach. It's like you have all these life lessons and this Midas touch that you guys take into elsewhere. So as you've been a head coach in multiple places, do you stick to the same blueprint? Like, does what you do in the very beginning, like day one, is it always the same?
It changes a little bit. And, you know, I think any first-year head coach makes a lot of mistakes that first year. And year 2, you're a lot better. But it still takes a few years to kind of get it down. And, you know, I think philosophically, you know, very similar to what it was at Alabama. But there are some differences. Like, you know, I'm kind of a short practice guy, short meeting guy. You know, I'll come in a couple hours before the coaches do in the morning, and I don't make them stay till a set time at night. You know, when your work's done, go home. And I've had a lot of coaches stay with me a long time. You know, my 2 coordinators have been with me 9 and 10 years. I hired both of them as part-time coaches at D2 level for about $6,000 to $10,000. They
make a little more than that now.
A little bit, a little bit, and I've seen them grow, which is rewarding. But as you win, you become more confident and believe in what you're doing. But I'm always striving. You know, there's always something to be done. And if you're not striving, you either get better or you get worse. You never stay the same. And if you're not striving, then somebody's catching you. And, you know, we are very process-oriented, like we were with Coach Saban. That'll never change. And, you know, avoiding complacency when you're successful is the key to the drill.
Do you think you would have been a different head coach if you became a head coach at like 35?
I may not be in this business if I'd become a head coach at 35. I mean, you know, nothing happens, you know, when people want it to happen. One of the things my dad told me when I was starting out in the business and maybe didn't get my first big opportunity that I wanted was, you never want responsibility till you're ready for it, because it'll set you way, way, way back. And I think in my case, you know, I wouldn't trade my path for any other path in the world. You know, I took a big chance. I bet on myself. I got to spend time with family. My wife did too. I got to learn from my mistakes and grow as the leader. And then moved on to another job whose history of success was probably worse than Indiana's. And, you know, we win 8 in a row right there in the beginning of the year. And I had equated that situation to this one when I took this job. You know, I reflected back on that a lot. But it's impossible to answer the question, but I think I'm a lot more prepared.
Curt Cignetti recliner. So we've talked about this. Tell us the history of the recliner.
My wife and I have been married 35 years. We got married at the Country Club in Indiana, Pennsylvania. We bought a recliner from Dowd's Furniture after we got married, right, which was down the road a little bit. And we still have the recliner. Every move we've made, the chair does not fit in the main TV room. I mean, from a color standpoint.
Of course.
But it's right there front and center because, I mean, that's my chair. Now, fortunately, the chair was on its way out a couple months ago. And then the Indianapolis Star got wind of the chair and did a big article on it. And then we had companies emailing us, offering us chairs and blah, blah, blah. And so because of its notoriety now, the chair is still in place because my wife had the other chairs picked out, and it's my chair.
What color is it?
It's like a green, tealish
Oh my gosh.
sort of thing. And it's, you know, where you rest your arms, it's kind of black there from so much use, but it's still the most comfortable chair.
Are you like, do you watch film ever in that chair? Like, is this just like when you're off from being a football coach? Like, what is the time spent in this chair?
Oh, when I'm at home?
Yeah.
90%.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you're looking for you somewhere in the house, you're in this chair.
I'm in the chair.
All right, Curt Cignetti merchandise. Now, Indiana has some of the best merch around you. The cigarette emojis, all sorts of stuff. These towels were put out for the last game on all the seats. First of all, when did this start? Do you have any of this merch?
We may have one of those at home. You know what? This whole thing since the season started, every win and the excitement, it's hard to put into words what's going on here right now. It's like a movement. And there have been T-shirts and towels, and now we're selling out the stadium, and we got Big Noon Saturday, we got game day.
You got the shirts too.
That's nice. I do not endorse smoking. Yeah, and there's a lot of that stuff going on out there, and it's all pretty cool, but, you know, got to win.
So what is the relationship with fans like at a place like this that is starved for this kind of success? Like, how has that grown as you guys have started winning?
It's like a tidal wave. It really is. I mean, and it's hard to put into words, but, I mean, these people are over the top right now, and it's great to see, because you know, I've seen some pictures of Senior Day last year and in the past, and you know, our first home game, we came out for the third quarter up about 3 scores against Florida International, and we had a decent crowd at the start. A lot of the stadium had left, and I was like, what's going on here? And I addressed it in my press conference, and the next week, you know, they stayed for 4 quarters, and then we beat UCLA, and then we had Maryland here, and it was a terrible, I mean, cold, rainy, just a bad day, but and wasn't quite a sellout, but almost. They stayed all 4 quarters, and since then we've sold out every game, and you know, pretty excited.
Is Indiana football for real?
Well, I mean, you are what your record says you are, right? And like all of our focus is on our preparation. Like today's Thursday, you know, we worked on red area this morning as a staff, which is always a you know, pretty intense meeting. And it's an important meeting with the players and important practice. And then tomorrow's got to be a great day. And you got to put yourself in the best position to be successful. Preparation. And if you prepare properly, there should be no self-imposed limitations on what you can accomplish. So we've played 8 games. We've won 8 games. We have a really tough opponent on the road this week. I got a lot of respect for their head coach and what they're doing there. And, you know, that's for you guys to talk about, you know, fill airtime. We're just focused in on getting the job done.
So there might be people who say, you know, they haven't been challenged, or the schedule, or this or that, or maybe they just doubt that Indiana football can be in the place that it is as we get to November. What would you say to those folks heading into November with an undefeated Indiana football team?
I'd say do your research. You know, look at the scores, look at the first quarter scores. We haven't trailed yet. You know, which I think this is the longest any FBS team's ever gone without trailing. So, but, you know, I don't feel compelled to have to make a case for Indiana. I'm more focused in on the challenge laying ahead in less than 48 hours because it's a significant challenge. And I don't know what the future holds, but I know how we'll prepare for it day by day.
How do you describe like the identity of this year's team?
This team is an experienced team. These guys played a lot of football. Fast, physical, relentless. They play one play at a time, like we preach. Not too high, not too low. They're disciplined, poised, physical. We play physical, fast. And, you know, we get after it from the first play to the last play, regardless of the competitive circumstances. So we got some areas we're pretty good depth. We play a lot of guys. We got some areas that we can't. But these guys have a lot of confidence. What
does it say that you guys are able to win even without a starting quarterback, that people are able to step up?
Yeah, well, Taven played great in the second half against Nebraska, and then did some good things last week. So, you know, it's a team thing, and, you know, we adjusted as we had to adjust as the game went on to give ourselves the best chance to be successful. And you know, I thought the defense and special teams really stepped up and picked up a little slack in the run game. We got, you know, in critical situations was excellent. So, I mean, you know, we got done what we had to get done against a good football team.
How do you keep the players and this program level as you're going through a season like this where maybe some of them have never experienced this kind of winning? How do you keep them focused week to week and kind of expectation set? Yeah,
well, first of all, I got to stay level. Humble and hungry, eliminate the noise and the clutter. And on game day too, regardless of the competitive circumstances. Like, I can't go crazy when we make a good play or show anger or frustration when we make bad play. I'm asking them not to be affected by success or failure, right? And move on to the next play and play at a high standard, play in, play out, regardless of score. First quarter to fourth. Whether you're up 35 points in the fourth quarter is a standard. That's why I'm such a maniac in the fourth quarter sometimes. So it's pretty easy for me to keep the coaches grounded because I'm with them a lot, right? And I can detect things, and when I have to push some buttons, I do. And with the players, it's the messaging. But, you know, I think it helps us that we have so many experienced veteran-type players. And now I don't know what they do off the field in terms of social media and this and that. I'm sure everybody's on it a little bit. But for the most part, we've come out and prepared well during the week and played well on Saturday, done what we had to do. And, you know, we had game day here, which can, you know, I made my notes from last year at JMU because we were undefeated and lost. And I thought they handled that well. And so when you got a lot of good players that have good character and the right stuff, it becomes easier to do.
Is that why they were able to implement the culture, like kind of do the things that you wanted from a foundation standpoint pretty quickly?
Well, I think the JMU guys were key there. And, you know, like I said, the process happened so fast. And then when I told the team, on a Wednesday, I think it was, or, you know, I never once thought that any of these guys would join us, or it never even entered my mind. But as soon as I left to come here, you know, they started going to portal. And, you know, those were a lot of guys. They were very close. They had won 5 championships. They were close with their coaches, believed in the program, had a little chip on their shoulder. You know, they're probably sitting around wondering, why wasn't I recruited by Virginia or Virginia Tech? And they wanted to come. And about 12 or 13 of them total, 13 I believe, so maybe 10 or 11 in December. They helped facilitate the culture change in January because they'd been through the program. They could answer questions. The other guys, the ones who stayed, had the right stuff, had a chip on their shoulder. The other transfers we brought in came from winning programs, so they had been successful. They knew what it took. And, you know, we had good winter and good spring ball, good summer, good fall camp, but we had to put it on the field.
What were your actual expectations for year one, like realistically?
Well, you got to remember, I went to a place, my second job, that was 12 and 45. Nobody at that place thought it could get done. You know, we shared an office with the athletic administration, and, you know, you'd get comments, and they thought it was an impossible deal. And we opened the year up at Toledo. They won the MAC. They beat us, but we played hard. I knew we had a shot. And then we won 8 in a row. So I'd done it before. Now, one of the things that we sold, you know, because people would say, you know, what do you sell? Well, you sell the staff's success, prior success. For a quarterback, our last 4 have been player of the year in the league. For receiver, we've had 2,000-yard receivers in the same season, 2 last 3 years. You know, D linemen, linebackers, you know, we're usually in top 5 in the country against the run, TFLs and sacks. But we sold the schedule and the vision and what could happen, because with the portal guys, you know, a lot of those guys are 1-year guys, some are 2-year guys, and they want to have a great experience. And we'd go down that schedule. I'd go down it with every one of them and say, look, and like I was very confident that we could get on a roll, but we would have to make it happen too.
So when you're adding guys out of the portal, I know one of the things that you look for is productivity, that they've done it before, even if it's at a different level. Can you walk me through that philosophy?
Well, you know, you get a guy that's been a 2-3-year starter, right, and pretty consistent production over 3 years. I mean, there's a guy that's dependable, probably has good work ethic, strong character, can overcome adversity, obstacles, takes to coaching, can handle success, can handle failure. Versus a guy maybe that is a backup at a bigger program and hadn't seen the field yet for whatever reason. You know, and I'd seen a lot of these guys play, and I knew they could play. Some of them we'd seen play on opponent tape. I had coaches on my staff that knew others. And, you know, there was a real comfort level for me to bring in guys that were used to having success on the field and stayed on the field. And guys that had played 11, 12 games every single year and not been injured or whatever, you know what I mean? So you knew you were getting guys that were goal-oriented and understood what it took to attain their goals, but could still fit in a team concept.
How big was getting Curtis?
I'd say real big, because the quarterback really at the end of the day is the most important guy between the white lines. And we needed a quarterback. Ours had gone in the portal. The fellow that started last season. And you know, I Googled them. That's what I did on, you know, every guy. The first thing I do is I Google, see what their career stats are and whatever, what have you, research them, and then watch tape. And with Curtis, he's a MAC player of the year in 22, started a lot of games, won a lot of games. A lot of touchdown passes, not many interceptions. And then you put the tape on it and you see a guy that knows how to play quarterback, right? He can make all the throws. He can scramble for first down. He gets in a bad jam on normal downs. He gets rid of the ball, gets it back to 2nd and 10. And, you know, he was just looking for an opportunity and a shot.
So we've talked a little bit about like the fan culture and the excitement around this. How much do you think a head coach is responsible for engaging a fan base?
Well, I think if you build it, they will come, right? People want to go to the games, have a good time, tailgate, win the game, go home in a good mood, right? and people like to be associated with a winner. And so it happened. It's a process. And I think my job primarily is to make this football team the best it can be. And then we get the results, the fans will come. But, you know, there is a lot of excitement about Indiana football. It's like a movement. I really can't explain it. And I've never seen anything quite like it, to be honest with you.
Even in the other turnarounds?
Not like this.
So what's been the craziest thing about this start to the season?
Probably like the towels, 55,000 towels in the stadium on everybody's seat, you know, the T-shirts, just all that kind of stuff. It's like, wow. What
was the commitment from Indiana? What did it take for them to be serious about football, for you to be serious about them?
Well, I had to feel it first from their heart, that they were committed to getting this thing going. It was important nowadays that football was successful at every P4 school because it brings in about 90% of the athletic revenue. And, you know, the things that are important to success are different now than they were 10 years ago. And right now, NIL is a big thing, collectives. And, you know, you can't compete if you don't have it and have enough of it. And so there was a commitment there, and, you know, it grew and grew and grew. And, you know, it allowed us to get done what we had to get done in December. I mean, at one point in December, you know, it would have been very difficult to fill the football team with all the guys that left. And that's what you see nowadays more and more when a coach leaves, is more and more guys leaving and guys joining from their previous school. And so, like, I'm not necessarily a guy that, you know, lives by the portal year in, year out. I mean, this was a necessity. And look, I wasn't going to take 4 or 5 years to win. Like back in the day, you know, you just try to build a program by your 4th year. Nowadays, you got to win now, because this is the I want it now society and times, you know, with social media and all that, right? And I'm not used to not winning. Right. So we were going to win now. and you know, it all worked out.
Do you think you reset everyone's expectations now, what a coach should do in year one? I feel like everyone's going to be like, well, Indiana was able to do this. We should be able to do this. You're breaking the market.
I guess that's a good thing.
When your wife said when you got this call that this was the big time, do you still feel that way, being in the Big Ten, being at a place like Indiana?
I mean, you know, I've been around the game for so long, and really had been in the big time at a young age, that probably when I made that comment to her, it was probably in reference, there'll be more of this and more of that, what have you. To me, I don't feel really any different. I don't operate much differently than I did, you know, the previous 10 years. I did go out on a limb with some of my public comments when I first got hired here. I had to get people excited, set an expectation level. I didn't do that at those other places, but I felt like that needed done here because I think there was just such despair and doom and gloom surrounding this program that it was an impossible deal, that I had to get people kind of excited and revved up. And so in terms of how I operate, there's a little bit more of this kind of stuff, you know. A few more seats, in the fans in the seats, and you know, you're playing good teams week in, week out.
What are your goals for this season and for long term at Indiana?
I mean, my goals are to have a great day-to-day, great meeting, great practice, and do my part in the preparation, make sure the coaches have done their part, and that the players are doing their part, right? It's all process driven. And I firmly believe that if you do that, then you can accomplish anything. And with a proper commitment from the top, you can accomplish anything long term. We have unlimited potential. We can be as good as we want to be and decide we want to be.